RCGF 10cc engine electrical system. We're going to start with my installation of the Turnigy 6-volt 5-cell NIMH 2300 milliamp battery. It's brand new. It is connected through this connector here. That's the battery out connector into an extension wire. The extension wire comes out of the frame right here. It travels to the kill switch, the manual kill switch. You can see here the connector goes into the ignition side of the switch. Comes out of the ignition side of the switch, runs down to the connector that leads into the RCXL optical kill switch. This is an option, allows remote control through your transmitter killing of the engine. So the power is coming into the kill switch. The control switch for the remote control runs from the optical kill switch into the gear channel of my receiver. And to show you here, I can get that puppy focused for you. It runs from this wire into the gear switch. So that controls the flipping of the switch remotely. It also has an LED indicator right here that will let us know that the switch is on and that the circuit is complete. So we have the power going in, the remote control switch, and the LED. What we need is power out. Power out comes from the optical kill switch, so it just loops inside here when the switch is closed and runs into the RCXL ignition. So once again, this is basically the power inline. Everything else this side is a switch. The power comes directly into the RCXL ignition. These are excellent ignitions. The spark wire is the common spark wire, runs down the outside here and into the spark set. It is well attached and it is secured, as I like to do, with a clamp. It's been shown several times now to give us a spark without any problems. So we have the power in, we have power out. For timing, we have the hall sensor. Hall sensor uses the magnet as it comes by to trigger it, sends a signal from the hall sensor back into the ignition, which takes the power out to the spark. This is the optional tack wire. I currently have mine disconnected. There's the tack, because some users have noted that when they connect the tack to this setup, for some reason it kills the motor. Since I've been having trouble getting the motor started, I'm just going to try and get it going without this and use a manual tachometer. So, in summary, we have battery down on the insides. We have battery power out to the mechanical switch. We have battery power out of the mechanical switch into the opto kill switch, triggered by the receiver LED to tell us that it's working. Power comes out of there and runs directly into the power input of the ignition. Power comes out of the ignition when triggered by the hall wire, which is connected directly to the ignition set through its protected wire, and sends spark out to the spark plug in the motor. That's the RCGF 10cc electrical system as I've got it installed. And there it goes. So we know that we have power, and as I mentioned several times, I've shown that I've got spark. I'm going to take the spark plug off here in a second and show you that it's sparking. Spark test. You can see the ignition is lit. I have the spark plug out. For those of you that aren't familiar with how to do this, you just have to make sure your ignition's set, but the spark plug is out of the unit, but it is firmly implanted in the spark plug holder. A caution, never run the ignition without a spark plug in place, because you can damage the electronics. So watch for this and listen for the spark. Every time the hall sensor goes by, I'm getting a spark. So we know we're getting a spark. All I'm doing is turning this prop past the hall sensor. My RCGF 10cc engine, we covered the electrical system, now the fuel system. I've modified a 3-probe tank, closing off one of the probes. There's solder in here, as well as a rubber cap and a fuel stop. Coming out of the top here, and verified if you can see through there, I'm not sure I can get the light to do that for you, is the vent. And the vent has been confirmed to be the vent. You can see the top of the vent almost near the hole there. but the vent is definitely the vent. The vent out goes down through the frame. I'll show you in a second how it's coiled back when it's in place. The fuel vent line goes down inside the frame. I don't know if you can see it because it's quite a ways down in there. Let me see if I can get that illuminated for you. Down in the bottom there, you can see where the line goes, and basically it's coming out right here under the frame, and it does a nice job of venting fuel. The other line goes down through here, down through the frame. You see it coming out of the bottom. This is where the clunk, that's the one that's connected to the clunk. You can see a bit of gas is still in there. Runs down through the frame. I usually have a quick fire installed, but as I'm troubleshooting these problems, I'm trying to just use minimum amount of resistance. Not that I think there's any from the quick fire, but I run into a three-way valve. This is the intake fuel valve. There's the fill valve rather. And then that runs across the bottom. All of this is below the tank to the RCGF 10cc Mod 2 pump. There's two different pumps that are used on RCGFs right now for the 10cc engines. They are detached pumps. I think their design's probably very similar. This is the black one, the modified one that Joe Nelson sent me as a beta, and the other one's a silver metal case. I think this is more of a plastic heavy nylon case. Fuel comes in to the inlet valve side, the metering valve to the pump off the carburetor comes in under here. If I can get that view for you, a little bit of light. You can see how it attaches to the engine. This is where the metering valve comes off the carb and provides the metering pressure. The fuel line itself coming out, so the fuel goes in, comes right back out, and dives up into this port here, which is into the carb. This is the fuel in carb, and the throttle's right above it. On this newer version of the 10cc engine, this is angled out at about a 45-degree angle from midline. On the other motor that I have, it runs straight back, and that's one of the original motors. So fuel system goes from the tank underneath the frame to the three-way valve, across underneath to the pump, out of the pump into the throttle case. The metering wire comes off the engine into the metering side of the fuel pump. For throttle, I've got a ball connector to the throttle, which is now in mid. This is off. This is full throttle. Running to a servo back here. I have a heavy-duty high-tech servo. See if I can get you to see which one that is. It is a 5485 HG. Connected. I like to use a connector that allows me to slide the wire back up and forth and down. Ignition is provided as we showed in the electrical video from the 6-volt pack to the RCXL ignition through an RCXL opto kill switch and a miracle type ignition and receiver switch on the other side. So in summary, fuel in to the fuel valve to the three-wave. As you fill, it will backfill the motor and fill into the through the clunk line into the tank. So fuel is filled in the tank, runs out of the clunk line into the fuel inlet, under the tank, through the three-way, over to the other side, hits the RCGF 10cc pump, metered, pumped out into the carburetor right here. Alright, so pretty straightforward. Nothing wrong with that setup. There'll be a still picture here in a second that will show you what the tank looks like when it's installed.